One. Welcome to another edition of DD on the Spot. This is your host, Ryan Johnson, and today we have Tim Spaulding. Tim, how you doing?
Great, man.
So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory and what got you kind of into playing music, what your influences are, and what you're up to currently?
What got me started was my cousins in the late 80s, early 90s gave me Ride the Lightning from Metallica. And since then, I went probably for a period of 10 years listening to nothing but Metallica, and people in school were like, "Hey, listen to something else." I was like, "No, it's Metallica all the way." And then from there, early 90s was big on the grunge scene, so I listened to a little bit of grunge and got that kind of influenced in me. The whole, where I'm at now in life, I still play live, but, I got kids and stuff, so I got to work a job, and then I also got to do my thing at nighttime, so it's pretty tiresome.
Yeah. So now this is coming from a kid that was born in 1994, and I never got to experience really what that whole grunge era was like. What in your own experience? What was that era like? Because I was always kind of a fan of Nirvana growing up. I was always like a Pearl Jam fan. But what was that like during when they were prime? Like when it was the early 90s and it was just everywhere. What was that like to you growing up?
Oh man, it was a release. Like it was their songs came from the heart. It wasn't the thrash metal, the speed and the choppy chords and stuff like that. It was, like some songs were slower, some songs were still as fast as some of the thrash stuff. But it was mostly the emotion that they put into the music, being that, a good percent of them came from an area of the United States where it was dark and dreary and really wasn't, the best weather at all times. Mm-hmm. And I guess they were stuck in their garages a lot, but it was a good time. And then when we started losing the singers and stuff like that, that really put a drab on it all. But it was very emotional music, very emotional.
Yeah, even listening to it now, you can just definitely get all the emotion, and especially you got like Lane Stanley of Alice in Chains, and you got Kurt Cobain and Eddie Vedder. Just their vocals alone are just unbelievable, and it was just, it was one of those times where I wish I could have been around to kind of be able to comprehend what it was like back then, but it's still good in retrospect to go back and listen to them and just kind of, because they did have a huge impact on the world, and they were kind of like the last great rock stars if you really think about it.
Yeah, it was a scene that was underground, and somebody had to have went to Seattle or the Oregon area and seen it and heard it, because they were pulled. Like they weren't going for the mainstream. The mainstream came for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So when they were pulled up to the front stage, that had to have been a big load on their shoulders, man, to go from playing bars after bars after bars after bars, and then going to playing MTV and having their own unplugged sets and $1 Million Homes and stuff like that. That had to have been cool in one retrospective, but very, very tiresome in another.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and you could just see it definitely took its toll on them. So, going a little bit more to you, what was the name of the first band that you were ever in?
Oh, the very first band I was in, I think, was called Ali Spio, and we named it after a girl that we went to high school with. Her name was Ali Spirit, and so we kind of came up with it and just nailed Ali Spio. And then from there, the next one was Simply Stronger, and the next one, oh man, I've been in so many of them. And the thing is the first one though, like to answer your question, was Ali Spio, but there comes like an ego with everybody who wants like their mark on the song, who wants to put their fingerprint on a song. So, you kind of got to have like a creative to collaborate creatively, creatively. But there's a lot of egos in the music. Mm-hmm. So you got to pick and choose your battles.
Yeah, absolutely. So in these early bands going on, who would write the music in the group? Would it be you? Would it be someone else? Or would you guys kind of collaborate? How would that work?
Well, we all took our turns. Like, we all, like, everybody was a lyricist. Like, everybody could. I mean, this is back in 2001 and to like 2008. So, like, that was high school, and about 2 years after high school, when we were trying to, like, we were out of high school, like, we don't want jobs. We're going to be rock stars and stuff. So, we all wrote lyrics, but when it came time for the music, we all just kind of, brought to the garage or to the studio what we had been working on by ourselves. And like the bassist was really good. His name was Dave. And the drummer was really good, Scott, and things of that nature. But we all just kind of brought our own little influences in, and then we would write the songs around what that person brought to the studio. It really wasn't like, one-sided. It really wasn't one-sided. We all just it was a great band. I've been in really great bands, but just something always happens to where I smash an amplifier and get kicked out.
So that's happened before. You've got kicked out for smashing an amplifier?
Oh, I like to destroy things. Like I said, I like to put on a show. I don't know really where that has went anymore. Like people, because that's if you
rock
don't
and
have
roll.
If you don't have any instruments, they can't call you out for an encore.
Exactly. So when you were done with this band, so then you went to a different band, and then where would you say you kind of found out or decide that you want to be like a solo kind of guy, like, or kind of like what you're doing right now? When did that kind of come into play?
Just the ego. Like, I'd say it was probably 3 bands ago or so, and then I actually played with one probably about 6 months ago, and they were just lazy. Like, they didn't want to write no music. They didn't care to learn any new songs. They were stuck to a repertoire that they were used to for years. They gave me the set list. I had to learn their set list, and then they just never wanted to progress from there. Egos, man. Like, you'll get into a band and you'll have a guy that's up there while you're supposed to be playing a riff. They want to go and play some amazing solo or something, or freestyle on stage. And I did. I've been doing covers for about the last 2 years, and so when they're altering the songs, that's not how the song goes. So that's not really me.
Yeah. So what would be your go-to cover song that you say you played probably more than any other song?
I like For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Yes.
For Whom the Bell Tolls is a good one, and Breed by Nirvana is another really good one. There's so many covers that, I mean, once you learn about 250 songs, the first song you learn is no longer in your memory. Like, it's pushed out, it gets stored away somewhere. But yeah, I know a bunch of songs that, if a band strikes up, that I can make it through. Seek and Destroy was another really good one that I like to play live, because it's the chord progressions are pretty simple, and there's not too much room for error. Like, when I put together a first set list for a band to play, I try to make it simplistic, so there's minor room for error, because if you mess up, or if somebody, even the most simplest thing is dropping a pick. Like, if you drop a pick, man, you're looking around for a pick, and unless you got them duct taped to your guitar or duct taped to the mic or strapped to something, man, you're going to mess up. That's going to sound terrible while you're searching for a pick.
Yeah. So, what was your first concert like? Or can you remember what exactly happened? How was that nerve? How was your nerve? And just, could you maybe describe kind of what that was feeling like?
My first concert was Creed, and it was on their second album. I can't remember the name of their second album, but it was Three Doors Down's first. It was Three Doors Down first CD that they released, and they were opening for Creed. And I seen them, and it was great. Like, the sound was excellent, played like the CD. It sounded note for note like these guys really practiced. And that's something else that I really don't. Well, if I go to a concert and it does not sound like the CD, I'm going to be booing. I don't like bad setups. Like if I've hired 2 or 3 audio guys to go into bars or nightclubs or just a venue to set the sound up for me, and they got their own sound guy there. And the sound guy's like, well, why is this guy here? And I'm like, cause I don't trust you. You know, I trust this old man a lot more than I trust you. So, yeah. And there's really great sound guys around here in Cincinnati too. Yeah.
So, what would you, in the first concert you ever played at, could you, do you remember that and kind of like what that was like for you?
Oh, my very first one. Yeah, I remember it vividly. It was freshman year at my high school. It was Battle of the Bands. Ooh. You know, it's like every high school has, or they used to have it, like, you know, with, the Battle of the Bands, and there was 3 bands there. The first band played like a Taking Back Sunday song, and the second band played I can't remember, but I do remember that we did Bulls on Parade.
Oh yeah.
By Rage Against the Machine, and we cleared the seats. Like there was kids running out of the bleachers and to come around us and push each other and get the mosh pit going. Because like you can't really mosh to emo, And then when we started playing Bulls on Parade, and they noticed it, man, they all ran out of the bleachers and started mosh pit, and it was a great, like that was the greatest, opening to the musical scene that I've ever had, clearing the high school bleachers.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna lie, out of all the songs that you've mentioned here, I've listened to probably 90% of those songs today alone.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Like I was just listening to Bulls on Parade like 2 hours ago when I was driving home. And yeah, so that's unbelievable. But what would you say is essential to you when you're forming a band in order to have like a positive experience with the group of guys or gals that you have? What would you say is the number one thing that needs to be done?
I mean, besides like like there's oh man, there's so many factors that can get into it, because I mean I could go on for almost a while about this topic. I've done mentioned egos, so you gotta there, but on my part of the vocals and the rhythm guitar, I gotta tell myself that it's not all about my voice. Like sometimes I gotta take a step back, and if somebody else writes a song and they want to perform it and they sound like shit, that's them sounding like shit. So it's not on me. But that's their song, that's something they've created, and they're entitled to sing that song because it's music that they wrote. And so when it comes to the egos, you got to pick and choose your battles. Like you just can't like come out like, oh, I want all the glory. So egos, and then you got, the old heavy metal, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Mm. And when you think about the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, you got the women that come with it. The drugs, if you got a good drummer, what good is he when he's dead, And then you just got the part of rock and roll. Rock and roll isn't, like when people say, oh, I like punk. Like punk is not a style of music, it's a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Like, you gotta play the part of the punk to have the punk tag put to you for my liking. So when they say like, so when it comes to rock and roll, like, like when I think, I like nobody smashes the set anymore. Nobody plays solos while spinning around on their back, and nobody, tries to, like outshow somebody, and nobody, there's just like so many factors because people don't want, a band just standing there and playing, not moving around, not engaging the crowd. You got to engage the crowd, make them feel like they're a part of the show to make it a show.
Yeah.
So when, even though, you might be like in a small area while you're practicing with the band, you want to see some type of life out of the members. You want to see the drummer twirling some sticks, and you want to see the bassist, walking around, and the lead guitarist, you want to see him bending his axe up and down, and really getting into it, putting on the show. So there's a lot of factors that go into picking bandmates, and the main one that I would say is the big one is the attitude, because the attitude, you gotta have presence, you gotta have the stage presence.
Yeah. So, what would you say? We've talked about this a little bit on this podcast before, but how rock music in general is kind of like off the scene now, and it's not as popular as it was before, and it's just mainly a lot of hip hop and rap now. What do you personally think, as a guy that kind of grew up during the downfallish of the rock popularity? What do you think was one of the big causes of that?
Oh man, there's been plenty of them, man. If I was to say, I would probably put the fold on video games, like the popularity of video games, because like when I was a little boy growing up, I'd be like, Mom, I'm bored. She'd be like, go outside, like don't bother me, go outside and do something. And I remember being a little kid and not having air conditioning and playing guitar from probably the age of 12 or 15 in a hot, sweaty garage, man, sweating, just sweat rolling off of my face, still playing, man, just for hours and hours and hours. I don't really know what's made the decline, because I've seen, from like research polls and stuff from the internet, that Guitar Center is going out, is filed for bankruptcy, and Gibson's filed for bankruptcy, and all these major influences in the heavy metal rock and roll scene that I've known for years, man, are feeling the effects of the young generation not wanting to play music anymore. I think it's sad, man, and I pray, I sit here all the time and think to myself, I hope I don't see rock and roll go out, man, because that's a shame. Like, cause they said rock and roll will never die, and now I'm getting posts and stuff about Guitar Center going into bankruptcy, and that's saddening, dude. Cause I'm in Guitar Center twice a month, 3 times a month buying strings, so, and I'm not gonna order strings on the internet, so.
Yeah. So one of the things that I kind of like started out this podcast for was to kind of like get more of a like feeling on the local scene, kind of, because I'm based out of Minneapolis, and one of the things that I was really surprised of is Minneapolis is a huge metal community that I would never have guessed. And then you said that you're based sort of like near Cincinnati. What would you say is the music scene kind of like there?
It's more metalcore, like, and I've attended several shows from the metalcore. But you pick and choose your who you like and who really is good and who's not. But anyways, so because like when I go to a metal show, I want to hear something I've never heard before, and I'm not really saying like lyrics. Like, I want to hear a voice that I haven't necessarily felt before. And then when you're talking metalcore, it's a lot of growling, like boo, and stuff like that. So it's not very difficult to sing, but if you try to do like a Chris Cornell song, if you try to cover Chris Cornell, man, that's some hard, difficult stuff, man. That's singing, like that's and it's not that I'm trying to pull from the grunge era or the 90s, but the 90s had it, man. It really had a unique sound to it that nobody has really tried to duplicate yet. And Metallica owns their own sound. Pantera owns their own sound. So you can't really copy those guys, because you write a song that sounds like Pantera, someone's going to be like, oh, you sound like Pantera. And I've actually had several bands send me their link to their stuff, and I'm the first guy to be like, sounds like Pantera, like I'm calling them out on it. But you got to come up with your own sound, and growling or whatever the metalcore stuff is not really all that. I think that it's, it's like kind of like Five Finger Death Punch type stuff. Like, not saying that they're bad because they're making a lot more money than me right now. But, there's a way to, like, when I'm in a car and I'm listening to a song, like, I want to hear something that I can't sing. Like, and I grew up actually, believe it or not, in a private school where like heavy metal was shunned upon. Mm-hmm. So I got a classically trained voice from being in choir my whole life and things of like that, and so I can sing pretty much not everything but a lot of stuff. And the metalcore scene's just, it's good, but everybody's playing 7 strings now, drop C tuning and B tuning and all stuff like that, and it's like, that's not, that's kind of like cheating, tuning your stuff down. So I don't know, that's what's going on in Cincinnati metalcore, the heavy metal.
All right. So now this is the part of the podcast where we kind of do like an inside the actor's studio kind of ish thing where I just ask you 3 questions and you can just kind of answer them however. And then I like keep a poll. And then like once I reach a certain amount of episodes, I'll be like making a list and like seeing what the results are. So the first question is, out of all the songs that have ever been written in the history of music, which is one song that you wish you would personally come up with?
Ooh, wow. Man, good question. I don't want to be, I'd probably say something difficult that I still find very difficult to play is Stevie Ray Vaughan, Pride and Joy.
Yep.
Because that was blues that you
just the shift in it too is unbelievable.
Oh man, and then the point is like if you ever get into like watching any Stevie Ray Vaughan, like his Austin City Limits set in like 88 or 90, I don't know when he passed away, but I think it was Austin City Limits in 88. He played a set that was amazing, and like all of the and if you know the songs, you know that he's not actually playing the songs correctly. He's just kind of up there freestyling it, and that's beautiful, man, because that shows creativity when you can make a scale that works live. Mm-hmm. It's not like Metallica. Like Metallica plays the same stuff every night, and they've been doing it for 40, almost 40 years, man.
Yeah.
So, like, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Pride and Joy, because of the complex scales.
Yeah. And if there was one artist, dead or alive, doesn't matter between the two, that you could play one concert with, who would it be and why?
Kurt Cobain.
Yep.
I would like to meet him because if he would have lived as long as Chris Cornell lived, then I bet he would have probably produced and wrote and made more music than any artist alive.
Oh, yeah.
Because in the 4 years that Nirvana was out, or the 6 years technically, but they toured 2 underground, really. Yeah. Before MTV spotted them. But, yeah, Kurt Cobain, because he was a musical, he was always on short time schedules with the CDs. They would come to him like, hey, we need another CD. Mm-hmm. We need more. And he would write all the music. Like he did it all. Like he wrote all the music and would come to him, and they would practice 3 to 6 months, and then they would record the CD. Like there was no room for error. Like they made sure that their music was clean. I picked Kurt Cobain because of the legacy that he left behind, unfinished business that he did not get to do.
Yeah, it's a funny little Nirvana fact, but I forgot their album All Apologies was recorded literally 20 minutes away from where I live. So then I've actually driven down and like visited the studio that they stayed in. They stayed there for I think 2 weeks only, and it was like during the winter when there was like 2 feet of snow on the ground. So they just stayed inside all day and just jammed the entire time. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that most people also don't know about them though is that like Kurt had like 80% of those hit songs already written before they became famous. So like he had plenty of material. But yeah, he was unbelievable. Have you seen his Montage of Heck documentary on him?
Yeah, Montage of Heck. Yeah,
that was unreal.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of there's another good documentary out there. I can't really think of the name of it, but it's like all of his friends and stuff that was from when he was a little, like growing up with him, talking, some early childhood memories and stuff they had of him, and his mom was in it and stuff. I mean, I think that there was something in that area that was boring.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was something seriously so boring in that area at that time that guys was just like, dude, we got to become rock stars, man. We got to liven this up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then one of our final questions for this little segment is, out of all the venues on the planet, and if you had one choice to play at any venue in the world, which one would you choose and why?
I don't know. It'd probably be two sets. It'd be either the Palladium in California or the Paramount also, just because of the fact that the singers that played the Palladium, like countless metal bands have played the Palladium. Paramount, that Nirvana did a set at the Paramount.
Yeah, on Halloween '91.
Yeah, and then Reading, and then probably the
Reading
Festival because of just the sheer number of people. And then there's also now if you want to talk about a country that has not abandoned heavy metal like we have, is Russia. Like Russia still likes their vodka and they like heavy metal.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if you go to Russia, I mean that's a good turnout. And Reading has, like, I don't even know. I can't even think of what the word is for 10 times or 20 times, but they have really doubled up in their sheer presence of people that go to Reading.
Yeah, I was going to say mine has always kind of been, if you know Slane Castle in Ireland, where they perform outside, that would probably be mine just because I just love the view that you have and everything. But yeah, like, I remember watching the video of when Metallica played Red Square in Moscow in front of like 200,000 people. Yeah. And just like a free concert right after the fall of the Soviet Union. It was just, that just blew my mind away seeing them perform in front of that many people. And so we have two final questions. The last one is, what is a guilty pleasure song that most people when they would meet you would never guess that you like?
Ooh, guilty pleasure song. Probably, I can't think of the name. I know it's the Marshall Tucker Band, which is Can't You See?
Oh, yep.
That song, that's a guilty pleasure song for me, just because I've had a few women that kind of, that treated me like shit and, rubbed me the wrong way. And it's kind of the song that you kind of want to, you see your ex in a bar and you start playing it and she leaves the bar because she knows you're playing it for her. So, yeah.
Yeah. And lastly, for the segment, guilty pleasure genre.
Oh, I don't know the name of it. That, like, the electronic 80s.
Oh, like the techno kind of?
No, like Devo.
Oh, yeah.
And like, and actually, I don't know. This might actually make some people stop following me. Like Toto, Africa.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, that's a great song. Yeah. If anyone hates you for liking that song, then they're a horrible human being. That's a great song. And my mom's name is Rosanna, so she has that song played out as her when her phone rings. That's the song that plays too. So yeah, I was my parents are huge Toto guys, so they got me into it. I was lucky because I was raised with the parents that liked the 80s music and like that type of music, so I was born and raised on that. So I'm one of the few kids in my generation, at least, that appreciates it. But yeah, what would you say would be the defining music, the defining moment in your life musically?
Probably when I started, I think it was probably 3 years ago or 2 years ago. I got a whole bookcase full of tabletry books, and I went in, and for years I had been going into Guitar Center and purchasing these books, And I finally looked and seen the Nirvana Nevermind, because you can't really get that one because as soon as it comes in, it's gone, and somebody picks it up and buys it. And so I seen it, I read it, and I was like, wow, it's so simple of chords. Like how more simple can you get on how to play stuff? So that was probably, and when I learned the full Nevermind CD from Nirvana, that put because really what I could really get into would be like the grunge scene, just on the misfortune of most of the people or the singers, specifically in most of the grunge bands, there's a few of them that the singers are still around. And
Eddie Vedder's like the only major one though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I've been sticking to the grunge era because in the Nirvana because of someday I'm sitting around waiting for somebody to be like, hey, let's get a reunion tour together and pick that guy as our singer and let's get him out there and go. So it's Nirvana, learning Nirvana because it's simple. Like it's so simple and it's groovy. Like, it's got kind of a swing to it and very, very simplistic. The writing in it is very I don't know. The writing's it's not brilliant. It's not genius. It's not unique or anything. It's just a song. And it makes, like, when you're listening to it, without actually looking the words up or having them in front of him, you really don't know what the man's saying, because Kurt Cobain had his own style of putting the word out there to the microphone. So it really wasn't that the end word fit the song, but he made it fit. Like he was like, I'm going to make this song work, and it worked, and that was the best defining thing that really made me be like, oh man, I think that I want to bring grunge back. Like that'd be something that I would really like to do, is bring grunge back, just on the simple fact of like there's so many late 80s and early 90s fads coming back, like the like the windbreaker material that's like pink on one side and fluorescent green on the other side. Like you see that stuff and you're like, whoa. And they got the Terminator glasses and stuff on. You're like, oh, flashback.
So what's the future for you musically? Are you looking to maybe get back into another band, or are you going to like try to release some of your own material? What's going on that front?
As far as me writing any new material, because it's been probably 2 years. Yeah, I've been on the cover side of things for about 2 years now. And it's nothing that like I don't want to musically express myself, or I don't have nothing left in the tank to write, because you have experiences every day you can write about. And sometimes I'll be sitting there and thinking in my head like, oh, that'd be a good little catchy little line or a hook or a chorus or something. But I've moved to the side of covers because it's simple. And if you can bring back a memory for somebody out in the crowd, like where they were when they first heard that song, or, bring back maybe just a little bit younger of a time in their life when they're not 50, because like Kurt Cobain would be 54 right now. So, it'd be like, it's or 52 or 53 or so. So, but, I really haven't been, and to say like, am I looking for a band or anything? If somebody asks, like, really, that's really what I do. Like, I got several people on my Facebook that have asked me to be in their band, and I'll say, you know what, book a venue, and give me the set list, and I'll sit at my house, and I'll learn the songs, and then when we get on stage, I'll be able to perform. And I've actually did 80% of my shows like that, and not had an issue at all. Like the timing's great, because the timing's all up here really, it's on them if they're on time, because I know that really I'm on time. Like, I know I can sit here all day and play Blackened by Metallica, and then I can actually mute the song, turn the speaker off on the song, and play, 2 minutes into the song and unmute the speaker, and I'm right on point from where I left off into the song.
Yeah.
So, and I've also been rejected from a few bands. Like, I've actually, there's been 2 or 3 metalcore bands that I've been like, hey, so you're looking for a new singer, man? And I've auditioned for them, and they're just like, no. And I'm like, what the hell you mean no, man? Are you guys tone deaf? Like, what the hell's wrong with you? And they're just like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, you just kind of got to let it roll off your back, man. And you got to keep moving on.
And how has being a father really changed your perspective on music, or how has that changed your music career? What impact has that had?
Man, it's slowed it down. I would like to say a lot, but the thing is if the opportunity ever came knocking where somebody said, hey, I got a talented group of guys who are just sheer talent, like, and really, to say talent, that's not fair. You got to practice. Like, you got to have the practice and the practice and the practice and multiple times of hitting that note wrong over and over. But if somebody said, hey, we want you to come jam out with us, or we want you to go on tour with us, or can you perform these songs that we already have written because this person has moved on to bigger and better things, I would most definitely jump on it, man. I've always dreamed of a life where music paid the bills, but I've never had that full opportunity to say, okay, well, this is going to pay the rent, or this is going to do this. I've always had to have the daytime job and the nighttime gigs. So, but, if it ever came knocking, man, that's absolutely, I would love more than nothing for music to pay my bills, because, once you got the money, your family's sleeping in a huge ass RV while you're playing a show. So,
right on. Yeah. So, where could people contact you, or where could they find out, like, some of your, do you have like songs, like your covers or any of your original stuff on like iTunes or Spotify? Where could people find that?
I have never really been the technology savvy person. I've always, there was none of that stuff around in the 60s when Hendrix tried to get popular. Hendrix actually had to go to England to get popular. So, and back in the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s, you played bars until that music producer was in the bar getting drunk and heard you and was like, hey, these guys are good. Mm-hmm. Hey, come to my office tomorrow and have a talk, I've always been just kind of old school. Like, I don't have a Spotify. I don't have I had a Twitter. I had a Twitter page for about 6 months, and I bugged the hell out of Dave Grohl and Francis Bean Cobain and Courtney Love for about 6 months, and then I just got discouraged, and I was like, these guys are gay. Screw these guys. So, I really haven't gotten into technology things. I've only been releasing music on Facebook for about a year now, to where, I'm sitting down every night and I'm going over my repertoire of songs that I'm playing, just so that when somebody's like, okay, come and let's, audition. I actually auditioned for Stone Temple Pilots and got denied too. So, it just happens, man.
Funny story about that. The Stone Temple Pilots front singer that died 2 miles, I think, away from my house.
Whoa!
Yeah, in a hotel right 2 miles away from me. Yeah, it was a whole big thing. Yeah, it was like 2 summers ago, I think, or was it last summer? I'm not sure, but yeah, it was a whole big. Yeah, so I've had a lot of weird experiences kind of like that, where I live I live in the same city as the Mall of America, if you know where that is. Yeah, same city, Bloomington, Minnesota. So yeah, we have a lot of interesting stuff that happening around that area. So yeah, that's my Stone Temple Pilots thing. But so you auditioned for them. How'd you do that? Did you just like send them videos of you, or how that all work out?
I sent them a video of me, and then they met me at a local radio station, and to which I was then denied because I didn't have the stage presence. Like I just mentioned to you, the stage presence of Scott Weiland was amazing. Like he was up on stage, he was moving around. I'm not really into that type of moving and intimacy of that, what he was trying to perform. But they denied me just on sheer stage presence because I sat down on a stool and did every song. And they were like, oh, we wanted you to move around and stuff. And they picked a guy that moves like Scott Weiland. The guy really does not sound like Scott at all. Like if I was to sit there and say, I want you because you move like him, or I want you because you sound like him, I would have picked the guy that sounds like him over the guy that moves like him, because then when the crowd hears him, they're going to be like, this guy's shit, It just doesn't sound nothing like, what we're used to.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, but at least you got to meet the band. I mean, that must have been a pretty cool experience, being a band that you probably followed a lot when you were growing up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and they still, I mean, they were cool guys, respectable. They're all, older gentlemen. So like to say like, and here I am, I was 28 at the time. I'm sitting here thinking, like, I remember after we auditioned, I was like, hey, you guys want to go to a bar and grab a beer? And they were like, dude, we're 50. And I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's unbelievable. So, so people could just go onto your Facebook page if they were interested in booking you for a gig, and then you have videos on there that they could check out then?
I mean, really, if you're in the Cincinnati area and you have a band that you want to, write some music, or especially if you got the music already wrote, and you fired a singer, say if the singer just didn't work out and you already had some hits, or if you're a cover band, because the music, 100% of all music 2 years or 3 years old has already been, tabularized and recorded out on the internet for everybody to read and learn the public knowledge. So, if anybody is interested in looking me up on Facebook, my name is Tim Spaulding. I'm also a small engine mechanic. I went to school in Florida to be a small engine mechanic. So I have a lot of things that I like to do with time. Like, like there's no real time in my life. I think you friended me almost a week ago, and here we are. It took us a week to get this podcast going.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I've only been doing this for about 3 weeks now, and I think you're my 13th guest. Yeah, so I've just been getting this started off, and I mean, I enjoy it. I love shooting the shit and just talking music with people. I mean, it's really interesting, and it really broadens people's horizons. So, I mean, absolutely. So, what do you have like any individual like shows, or like are there any like bars in particular that you like to play at that like if anyone's in the Cincinnati area that they would be able to then come and see you at?
Man, no. Like as of the last 6 months, man, the last 6 months of my life has really just been me working, coming home, playing guitar to my own spare time. That's if my kids don't come up and start strumming the guitar, like while I'm kind of playing, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess it's kid time.
Yeah.
But, but no, man, and the thing is I'm, I can get up there and rock and roll with the best of them. And, it's a shame that, just for example, that, the passing of Ronnie James Dio several years ago, did you know that they actually have a hologram, that his show now is a hologram on stage of the backtrack of his vocals?
Yeah, they did the same thing with Tupac that one time, and then they also did it with Prince or whatever. And that it's just, I don't get why they do that stuff. It's so stupid.
Anyway, but I can cover Dio, and so when I'm thinking like, so you came up with a $200,000 hologram, or hundreds of $1,000s hologram, when you could have just hired me for $100,000, and that would have been it. That would have been, set in stone. And then, you got somebody to interact with the crowd. It's kind of like how Journey hired the guy from Korea. You know how they hired him, and like the guy probably didn't know how to speak all the words in English, but they still hired him because he sounded like Journey. Like you don't have to look the part, you don't have to necessarily give back to the crowd, but they give you, when somebody passes away, you just want the sound, like that's all, because you want the to be able to close your eyes and be like, oh, that's good music, but and when you think about it, to give the crowd back what they want, what they give to you, is a major thing for crowds. Like they want to feel, they want it reciprocated, and then once you get it rolling, once you get that that sheer raw, they give you, you're like, hell yeah, and they're like, hell yeah, and you're telling back, that's rock and roll to me, that's rock and roll.
Absolutely, man. So, I mean, I'll definitely leave a link below to your Facebook page if you don't mind that, so then people can get in contact with you, and then I'll definitely, share this video with you. And, dude, man, it was great talking to you. I mean, you're the first person on here that's really had the great appreciation of grunge music that I kind of had, so, man, it was great just talking to someone like that. I mean, obviously, like, I was going to say this, but I've said this at almost every podcast when we come up to, like, songs that inspired us, but Master of Puppets Metallica was my one song in the metal where I was like, holy shit, this is unbelievable. And, yeah, I mean, it was just great talking to you, and it was, if you have, like, anything, if you get into a band, or if you have any upcoming shows anywhere that you want me to plug, dude, just let me know, and I'll plug the crap out of it for you, and, yeah, absolutely.
Now, if you said, like, talking about sheer emotion, this kind of just popped into my head since you said my appreciation for grunge, and I forgot to mention this band, which was kind of, bad of me, was Pearl Jam Black. Like that song Black, that really, that puts emotion. Like there were songs like that was like, oh, you can feel it in Eddie Vedder's voice, man. Like how just heavy everything was written and stuff like that. And that song was actually not written by Eddie Vedder. It was written by the guitars, but very, very, there was just good writing in this, the sounds, the voices were all unique. Like Eddie Vedder don't sound like Lane Staley. Lane Staley didn't sound like Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain didn't sound like Chris Cornell. Whoever did, there was just so many good bands. I forgot. I just blooped out on the other band, but there was another good grunge band that I was trying to think of, the people that sing Rain, but Blind Melon, Blind Melon. They all had their own individual sounds, and it was just an era where music was like stepping on itself. But you can't ever really down new music. You can never down any new music and say it's crap, because it feeds off the old stuff, you know? So
absolutely. Well, man, it was great having you on the podcast, and I mean, if you want to come on again, man, you are more than welcome to, and you just you take it easy, man.
Always. I love talking about music, man. Anytime you want to talk music, you call this little Skype thing, and I will, if I'm not working, and even if I'm playing guitar, dude, I'll probably pick the phone up and shred for you and sing. I'll sing. I'll do whatever. I love this stuff.
Hell
man.
Yeah,
Music is life.
Yep. All right, man. Take it easy.
All right, John. Rock and roll.
Yep.